Hey, this is the 1101 lecture for Tuesday, September 22, and here we're going to look at some of the Excel files. Now, I understand your WebAssign might not look like mine. After screen sharing with a student or two, I've noticed that you have a different format completely, and right now you don't seem to have the folders. So I'll be sending you the links, although you could take a look at this video and find them. Um, I'll be playing the video, but the audio will not come through. So I'll just supply my own audio. In fact, the early section, the 9 o'clock, already saw this. So if you're in the 9 o'clock section and don't want to see it again, then you can just fast forward a little bit. So we'll go to there's actually three portions of the Excel, some mini spreadsheets along with the videos. And we've already worked through the spreadsheet. So I'm going to click on the download here. I'm going to try to expand the sheet, although we've already covered this, so I don't really have to expand this, but I know you can see it even though it's somewhat miniature. Let's go ahead and get the video going, especially for the 1030 class that didn't see it. Now you can rewatch this again. There's the link if you can read that. And I will send it via email. I'll also be activating Blackboard soon and putting all the storehouse of information before the test. Hopefully I'll get those cloud videos. That's a lot of work in cloud videos. There's so many false starts, I have to sort through every one of them. So if it isn't for your particular class, don't worry about it. The 9 and the 1030 are very, very similar. So I may be interchanging them a little bit. But meanwhile, let's click on this and at least watch the video. Skip verification if that's relevant. Now I can hear it, but you won't be able to hear what she's saying. So let's just go ahead and watch this. I'll expand the screen. So we're arranging the data in the tables. And we have rows and columns. This is column A, row 1. And they're typing I'm trying to turn down her volume right now. We're typing in, of course, the standard equal sign. And we're going to add 2 plus 3 and put it into cell A1, which is kind of understood. A1 doesn't have to be written, but then you can just hit enter and the 5 will show up. So that's pretty basic, but we have to start somewhere. And so yes, please start at the beginning. I can give you lots of stories where they skip the beginning and, oh, well, now what? Sometimes you can type it up in the toolbar and get the same thing, and they even have some stuff with tablets, so you may want to refer to that if you're using a tablet. We do not recommend a cell phone. Here's another one. We're going to take 10 minus 3 and 7. And yes, we've worked through this in both classes on the mini spreadsheet that we had. So A3 will now have equals, get us started, 4 times, which is the asterisk. You have to always include that. No X and no blanks, like algebra often doesn't put anything. 4 times 5 is 20, of course. Just hit return and you get the answer. What about cell A4? Well, this time they're going to hit equals 20 divided by the backslash is division here, of course, just like a fraction. And we'll divide by 4. And of course, when you hit return, you get a 5. So nothing out of the ordinary. You can do some of the WebAssign work on Excel spreadsheets and get much better accuracy, or somewhat better accuracy than your calculator. WebAssign is hypercritical about that. So I guess they're assuming you're using Excel or equivalent. As a standard calculator won't work, and even the TI may not always work as well. So here we're going to raise it to a power, 2 to the power with the caret sign. That's the up, it's shift 6 on most keyboards, and 2 caret 3, 2 to the third is 8. Now in cell A6, we're going to use something that requires PEMDAS, so 2 plus 3 times 10. The 3 times 10 will go ahead, and that's understood. Now, if you did it incorrectly, you'd say 2 plus 3 is 5, and then 5 times 10 is 50, but that is incorrect. If you wanted to do that, you would have to put parentheses to make sure you did it that way. But here, they're just going to follow regular order of operations, PEMDAS, as I'm sure you've heard before. So we take the 30 first and then add the 2 to get 32, and that's how Excel will take care of it. So they're showing the steps how they actually work. Multiplication has a higher priority than addition, so it goes first as you do regular algebraic calculations. What about this cell? Well, let's see. We have 4 plus 6 over 4 times 5. We've run through some of these already in a live class, but this is just a review. Some of you may not need this, and some of you have already seen the video in class. It just wouldn't play in the other. Turns out I had a problem with Chrome. Chrome wouldn't play videos. Works on Safari and Firefox, at least for me. My computer's too full of stuff. So here we're going to have to use parentheses. They'd like us to pause the video and think about it, but I think what we'll need to do is type in parentheses around the 4 plus 6 and then divide by 4 times 5, possibly with parentheses also. If you have any doubts, include the parentheses. Never hurts to have too many, except it's hard to read. But if you put less parentheses than you need, then you can easily get a wrong answer. So they put parentheses around the 4 plus the 6, and then they divide by, with the backslash, 4 times 5. It appears as if we're going to need parentheses on this. That's my guess. Yep. Otherwise, the 5 would be off to the side and would be separate from the fraction. So here we have to bundle it into a denominator, the bottom part of the fraction, so it gets completely divided. And then, of course, the work was shown on the side to give us 1/2, 0.5. Now, this one looks a little awkward to me. I do not care for this problem. It looks a trifle ambiguous. They should have probably put parentheses around the... But this is really 10 divided by 4 and then divided by 5. So this is not written very well. This would not be a test question for sure. But if you take 10 divided by 4 first, then divide by 5, and you would be fine. Anyway, they have some advice here, and we can kind of look through this. Let the spreadsheet do your calculations. Don't do it by hand or with a calculator, except to double check your work. If you're doing it only with a calculator or by hand, you're not learning anything. So show your work, of course. If you typed calculation, your work is automatically shown in the formula bar. So if we were to take a look at some Excel work, we could find out what formulas you used and spot whether they're correct or not. But yes, as far as estimating, absolutely, estimating after you're done. But don't do it in replacement of the Excel, because that's defeating the purpose of the whole thing. Yeah, some of these are very easy, like multiplying by 2. You could probably do some of that in your head. Multiplying by 10, everybody can do that in their head. So anyway, that seems to be it for that. Let's move out of here. And first I'll shrink the screen because I'm not interested in those. But sometimes, if I did it fast enough, I could have just hit the forward bar, and I could have probably gone straight to the next video. But let's go ahead and close this out. And I'll go to the next ones. The second and the third ones are kind of together. And here we'll have a mini spreadsheet situation, and let's see if we can take a look. Of course, they say you should watch the video first, so if you can read that, you could just call this up at any time. I will be sending the link out via email and or Blackboard, probably both, and that'll be soon in case somebody didn't get to see the videos or find out where they were in the videos. But let's see if we can figure out what we're doing here. It's going to be pretty short, actually just a couple of very small things. And then we have a third video and a couple of small things too. So that'll be kind of a short lesson. Next time we're going to go into the book and see if we can figure out how to do some of the WebAssign problems, and that'll be a little bit more intense because some of the Chapter 4 problems were pretty deep. Remember, for the test though, and all you get is a calculator, I will accept somewhat rounded answers, especially if it's not a long-term loan. Then 5 decimals is plenty, but you should plan on showing your work at least on Blackboard. So let's go ahead and watch the video. I'll provide commentary since you're not able to hear it. And let's go ahead and play it. This one is using cell addresses. And I'll paraphrase what Susan is saying, which you can hear on the separate video at another time, which I recommend you do to review this. So here we have a couple of columns, A and B. So we put the 5 in the cell A1. As you can see, I've said A1. And then B1 has a 7. And then A2 has a 2, B2 has a 3, etc., etc., etc. So what they're going to do now is create a formula and see what we can do with these things and manipulate them. So what we have to do is get the address going. They move over to column D. They put in equals A1, which provides the 5 right now. We're going to add it to B1, and that's just going to add 5 plus 7. That's it. And you hit return. There's your 12. No big deal. But we could keep typing this over and over again and changing it, but there's a faster way to do this, and so we're going to try to take advantage of it. Oh, by the way, since the formula is already in there, if you change either one of the A's or B's, then the D automatically changes. The sum automatically calculates. You could experiment with that. Put in a 5 million or something and see 5,000,007 result from that. Well, we'd like to get both of these columns taken care of kind of with a minimum of effort, but there's a question that kind of justifies the use of the Excel, which we'll try to do here in a minute on the Excel worksheet. Which one is the better buy? That is, which one costs less per ounce? That's assuming you're not made of money, would like to save some money for exactly the same material. So it isn't like there's a bargain brand and a premium brand. They're both cornflakes. So we can, if you'd like, you can put in headings. The headings are optional, but we find them very helpful. You could abbreviate a little bit. She has not done that. She's typed in price in dollars, weight in ounce, and unit price, which is dollars per ounce. Now the price, as we just saw in the prior slide, was $3.99. And the weight was 18 ounces. One could divide that out in a little bit, but let's see what the small box had. If you recall, the prior slide was $2.99, and the weight was 12. But now we'd like to divide those numbers and see which one costs less per ounce, which, and as you probably know, normally the bigger quantity is the better buy. Not always, not always. And many stores, of course, will give you unit pricing for most of their items they sell. So they found cell B14, they've divided by cell C14. Notice that is in color, so it corresponds to the color of the cell. And then you see 22 cents. I don't know how to get to the third decimal place just in case you needed it, but that's in terms of cents, $0.22, 22 cents per ounce. Now the small box, we could just type in B15 over C15. And yes, you could do that. For short ones, it's no big deal to do that. But if you have a lot of calculations, and you don't want to do that. But as you see, the small box does cost more per ounce, 25 cents per ounce. So yeah, the big box is better, assuming you're going to eat that much cornflakes. If you just let it sit on the shelf for years, then I guess it isn't a good deal. So if you buy some relish or something you don't care for, and then that was a waste of money. But if you actually know you like something, why not buy the bigger quantity? But that doesn't always work. Occasionally, because of sales, things change around, so it is worth looking into. So what they're going to do now is try to find a better way to go about this, a shortcut way, especially if you had several boxes to compare. But what we could do is we could change in the new price depending on what happens the next year. So next year the prices go up, as it sometimes does, and you could then see what the unit price comparison would be. Maybe it's closer together, maybe it's further apart. Right now it's off by 3 cents, as you can see, 25 cents, 22 cents. But the weight would probably not change. But if there was a change in the sizes, then you could put that into. That would be a possibility as well. So now we're going to soon here, as soon as she gets done, we'll take a look at other items that could happen. Here is something that we've done with a hypothetical vote for some candidate in some election. Republicans got 278 votes, Democrats got 256 votes, and the Green Party got 58 votes, and I guess there are only 3 parties receiving votes here. What we'd like to do is put this in percent, so we can come along with doing that, and we'll come along with the repeated notation later. I guess I jumped the gun. I'm sorry about that. But first of all, we're going to need the total. If we want to get a percentage or a proportion, we're going to need a total. So here's where we type in the cell numbers. B25, notice B25 for the Republican, C25 and D25 for the Green, and all gets added together by plus signs, and 592 votes in total. So now to get the percent, although we actually are starting with the proportion officially in the beginning, what we'll have to do is to come along and get what's in the cell equals B25, which was given. And so they're going to type that in, and then we're going to divide by the total. The total is over in E25. So each of these have to be put into E25. Now it gives us too many decimals for most people's desires, but we'll get to that in a minute. But it looks like 46.95% or so. And we can just do the same thing here. We've got C25 divided by the total, which of course is E25. We're still doing it all by hand for now. That's about 43% or so. And the green total, 58 out of 592. And we're not going to use our calculator. We're going to type in the cell stuff, but we could always check your cells as well to be sure something's in there. And yeah, so it is 0.0979, etc. But now to get percentages, what they're going to do is they're going to look around for the percent key, which is up here, at least in this particular version of Excel. So take a look for the big percent sign. It should be around somewhere. And if not, you could just multiply by 100. That would be another way to do it. Take your cell and multiply by 100. But this should do it for you and save even more time. So they click that, and if yours works this way, just hit percent. Maybe you have to do it twice. And there it is, percentage, of course, gives you a title. And it'll round to the nearest percent. I know there's a way to get that to, say, 47.1% or whatever. Don't know exactly what that is. So we round to the nearest percent. And I can tell, obviously, this adds up to 100%, but let's double check it in case there were several percentages you don't want to use your calculator. Let Excel do it, and we'll add B26 and C26 and D26, and all together, yes, there's your 100%. Although, if you get a 99 or 101, that's typically just round off error, nothing to panic over. So here we have a series of numbers for which we can go ahead and do something with, and let's see what she's about to do. We can see there's nothing in this cell right now. It's cell D4, but we can type A1 and click on the cell, and it just gives you the A1. If you click on the cell with the plus sign there, it gives you the B1 already, and it's colored. You do have to put the plus sign in. So yeah, that makes it a little bit nicer, and you can just sort of not worry about typing all that stuff. You can just click on the cell. Just be sure you see that in the toolbar there in the cell that shows the calculation of the formula. At this point, Susan is probably giving better commentary than myself, but that's basically the end of her second video. So let's see if we can get back to the shrunken one. And now I think we can go and take a look. Instead of diving into video 3, I'm going to take a look at the actual calculation here, as they suggest we do. And this, I guess I can expand this. I probably should try to lengthen the screen to make it more full screen. It does have a delay factor involved, but now I think you can pretty much see it. We have 8 plus 12 is 20, and that's nice. And so here, what we can do is type in equals, and I'm going to say, we have to look at the cell numbers, subtract C23 minus, oops, I got to get the C in there, so capital C, 23 minus, and then we notice that this is D23, so I'll type in D23 and hit return or enter, and yeah, it's a 12, which obviously is 15 minus 3. So I'm just going to copy the cells and use the operation that we know about. This is a typo. Instead of, they've done it twice in a row, multiply. I haven't heard of multiply before, but let's just assume they meant multiply. I think that's a safe assumption. So let's see, we've got cell number C24 times cell number D24. So let's be sure it's entered incorrectly. C24 times D24. And I better make that a capital. I'm not sure it'll understand if it's a lowercase. I don't want to take a chance. So then I'm just going to hit return. And yes, 3 times 6 is 18. Let's go through the rest of these two. And now we're down to C25 divided by D25. Make sure you always start with the equal sign. C, okay, it looks like it's already, nope, not capital. So it's capital C25 divided by D25 and hit return. Yes. 10 divided by 2 is 5. Now we have 3 numbers to be added. And this time, let's try just forgetting the uppercase. I'm just going to type C26 plus D26 plus E26. I can't remember what happens here, but if I hit enter, it's incorrect. Doesn't like it. Likes the capitals. So let's see if I can go back in here. And perhaps I forgot to put the equal sign. Maybe that's all it is. Well, anyway, I'm not going to worry about that. Let's just get to the main point of this lesson here. We're adding, so D26 plus E26. And now I can hit return. And 4 plus 8 is 12, plus 1 is 13. And now for multiplying these three columns together, now we're down to row number 27. So let's see, hit equals. This time I will try the lowercase. Let me try C27 times D27 times E27, and see how picky it might be. I've got the equal in there, so let's hit return. Okay, it does not care if it's uppercase or lowercase. I'd forgotten that. So yeah, 2 times 3 is 6, 6 times 4 is 24, so that's basically it. Now here, we're looking at something similar to cornflakes, which obviously is Hot Cheetos Puffs. You go to Walmart and find that a 3.38 ounce bag, probably done in metric style, so that's why they converted it to ounces, and it cost $1.48. And an 8 ounce bag, not done in metric style, is costing $2.98. So typically, the bigger bag would be the better deal, but not always. So I'd say 90% of the time it is, but not this time. So this time we have to figure out dollars per ounce and just follow the trail, dollars on the numerator, in the numerator, ounces in the denominator. So instead of using your calculator or typing in the numbers, let's try to use the cell references because they will help us later as we start to explore shortcuts. So we have D, this is column D, and we're in row 35. This will be divided by E35. And let's see what happens and make sure we have the equal sign. So easy to forget that. And then I'll hit return. That gives us, oh, okay, it doesn't seem to like that. Not quite sure why. So doesn't like that at all. So I don't know what went wrong, to be honest, but let's see what happens. We could always do it directly, but I was hoping to try to use the cells if at all possible. So here we have equals, and I'm going to make sure I have this right. Oh, yeah, I got them wrong. That's right. I picked the wrong letters. Of course, B35 divided by C35 is what I meant to say. Excuse me. And C35. And one could try this first and then see what I had to say afterwards. Is hit return. And yeah, about 37 cents per ounce and 37.25 cents per ounce, or if you prefer, $0.3725. But most people would talk about cents at this point. So instead of typing this in, I'm going to use the cell references with the equal sign, and B36 divided by C36, not using the shortcuts yet. So B36, be sure that's typed in correctly, divided by C36, hit enter, and now that's up to 43.78 cents or so, 44 cents approximately. This one did give us all the decimals. Hard to say which one is better for you. I like a 1 or 2 extra, but I don't really want to see 9 or 10. But it does give you quite a few decimal places, so which is the better deal. Assuming you like to save your money, most people do that I've ever met. I haven't met too many people who are made of money and just threw it around whatever they wanted to. But yeah, the big bag as what typically occurs, but you can't count on this on a test, obviously. But looks like the big bag would be the best one. So I'll just go ahead and say big bag. And let's see what they will say. And return. That is correct. So they obviously had that ready to go. So let's see if we could take a look at this video. This one's a little longer. It does have some extra stuff on tablets. So let's see if we can watch this part of it. And maybe I'll skip ahead depending how the time is going. So I'll skip verification. And once again, I'll have to provide the sound because it does not let me record the sound onto my video. Now, this is the last of the 3 videos she has. Spreadsheets for learning, doing, and using math, and this is copying and filling. This is where we can save time for longer, more tedious tables. So this person is selling cheese, cost apparently will be $4 per pound, and various people come in with various requests for the weight of cheese they buy. So they cut the cheese, they measure it out, and they see what it's going to be, and they multiply by 4 and get the cost. So let's see what the first person purchases. The helpful headings could be abbreviated as long as people understand what the abbreviations mean. Don't just call them A and B because we wouldn't know what that means. But you don't have to be quite so wordy either, so that's up to you. So this person buys 1 pound of cheese. You type in the 1, that's it. Cost is 4, and that will stay the same. You don't have to put the $ necessarily. So we'll type in equals 4 times what's in the cell. That's cell A2. All they've done here is they've clicked on the cell and it shows up immediately, and it also goes to a dollar format. Not quite sure how that happened, but the dollar format was provided for us without explanation. So now instead of typing the formula in, we can copy and paste. So copy that cell and paste that cell, but it doesn't copy the $4 in, it copies the operation in. That is multiplying by 4, specifically $4 in this case. And notice if you take a look at the formula, it's already revised it for you. Notice how the 4 is in black with the multiply in black. Those are not changing. And of course the equal sign too. But the A3 did change. It moved down to the 3rd row. And so the 2 times the 4 gives you $8, which makes perfect sense. So now you could accommodate many, many customers with various shapes and sizes of cheese, and we can see how it turns out. So let's see what happens with the next few people and how we will be able to save a little time, especially if there's dozens and dozens of people. So let's see, the next person apparently is going to buy how much cheese? 10 pounds, that's a lot of cheese. And we can just click on the cell, kind of copy it down. It'll copy automatically. If you've done it the first time with a copy and paste, it'll do all the rest of it. You just sort of click on it and sort of drag it in there, and it multiplies it immediately. Now we could type in many, many values of people buying cheese, but instead we'll just type in a few at a time. 3.7, 1.9, these are all obviously weight on a scale, especially with the decimals that they are. And we can see what happens as you kind of drag it all the way down. It'll multiply everything by 4 very quickly. And obviously if the price of cheese changed, you can just change that part of it and still have, if these people were buying regular amounts of cheese, regular customers buying the same amount of cheese each time, then you could just simply change that. But notice they're showing how the shape changes from the white plus sign to the dark plus sign. You're inside the box and you just drag, kind of click and drag the whole thing down, and when you release it, everything is multiplied by 4. And that's very convenient. And you can spot check a few of these. 3 times 4 is 12, for example. And if you wanted to look at the formulas are there in blue. You can see how the rows have changed, or the cells have changed, I mean. And 1.9 shows up as 4 times A6, and its value, of course, when you remove it. And a quarter pound times 4 is exactly $1, so that's easy. So many others could be done. And this is a huge time saver, especially if you have more than just a couple of bits of data. When we were just comparing the cereals, it was not a big deal. Could have done it. If somebody didn't buy any cheese, of course, this is 0. 4 times A11 shows a 0, but if you fill in a number here, it'll immediately change it. But a blank is treated like a 0. And so right now I've got a bunch of zeros as she scrolled all the way down. So we can see what she's going to type in here. That's 0.5. Immediately it shows up as 2, just immediately. And you can type in any number you wish, so any non-negative number, of course, and you get an answer. So here we have some tablet instructions, and I suppose if you're using a tablet, you should probably watch the video because I'm not using a tablet, so I haven't paid so much attention to it, but the operations are quite similar. So I'm going to kind of skip ahead on this a little bit. Okay, so here we have another version. I'll continue to skip ahead a little bit. I wanted to get to something at the end of this video. If you're interested in using a tablet or an iPad, please check out the actual video. She does a very good job of explaining things. This is another version, still with the cheese example. And as I get through all of this, there's another example I'd like to show you, and it has to do with a polynomial. And as soon as we get out of this last example, here we have, just like plotting like graphing like a parabola or some other situation, some sort of equation that has some sort of result to it, whether it's straight line, and this time it would be a parabola because you see the x squared there from algebra. And so you can type in the x and the y as like headers, and then you can type in a value of x, which is -3, and then eventually we'll have to type in that formula to see what y would do. Now we only have to type the formula in once, which is really nice. You don't have to type in many, many times, which is defeating the purpose. So they've taken the value in A3, which happens to be a -3, and they've added 0.5, and notice on the number line, when you start with -3 and you add a half, you're actually to -2.5. So they simply took the A3 and added 0.5 just so they could increment it. Counting by ones might have been nice, but she decided to count by halves. So there's your plus 2.5. And then all you have to do is basically click on the corner of the cell, and it'll just do it for you as many times as you like. It'll just keep adding a half every single time. If you look closely, you can see that these values are all up by half. We kind of go to 0 there after a while, and then up to 0.5, 1, 1.52. Back to the function, though, that we're trying to perhaps graph, although we're not graphing it here. We're just going to look at the values, and the values will show up, but we have to come up with a formula to do that. So, of course, hit the equal sign, and instead of x, because Excel won't do that, it'll take what's in the cell. In this case, the starter one is A3. Notice the caret with the 2 gets you into something squared. The value A3 is going to be squared, and then we have to subtract 3 times that same value. You must put the asterisk. Algebra doesn't say that. It doesn't say 3.x or 3 asterisk x. But Excel has to have the asterisk. And then to add 5, that's very simple. It's just adding a constant, just the number 5. And there it is at 23. It did it extremely fast, and that's a nice thing. But all we have to do now is, well, they've decided to double check it, and that's not a problem on the side. Once you let Excel do its work, you can double check Excel, but it's not good to do it in the other direction. They squared out the -3 to get a 9. -3 times -3 was another 9, and 9 and 9 and 5 was a 23. So that is seemingly correct. But now instead of retyping it again, we can just sort of click the corner and drag it as far down as we'd like, and it'll give us all the calculations at once, and up to 1125 at the end. That's pretty big. I happen to notice that the minimum is at 12. That would be like a vertex or close to a vertex of this parabola at the value x equals 1.5. That's beside the point, but for more information on the tablets and iPads, please look at the full video. In fact, I recommend you do look at the video. She does a very good job of explaining everything. So let's see if I can get back to the, as I zap out of this one. Let's go back to the table and see if we can do something here. I'll click on that. And this one's actually pretty small. It says we're going to sell flour for $1.30 per pound. Calculate the price of flour for different pounds. We have 3 initial weight amounts have been given, and you can pick others. But what I'm going to do is notice what cell this is in. It's B61. So I'm going to say equals B61. And not, it's B61. I'm going to multiply by $1.30. And by the way, all I have to do is type in 1.3. The 0 is not necessary. So if I hit return, there it is. Well, 1 times any number is pretty simple. So what if I were to grab that corner? It's tough to do sometimes. And see if I can, well, I'm not very talented at this, but it looks like I finally got it. And let me type in a few other numbers here, like 10, 9.8, 3.67, just any number you like, 0.5. And let's just see what happens when I hit return. Actually, it didn't do it. It lost track of what I was trying to do. So let me see if I can pull this down, and then I'll hit return. Well, it looks like I've got to work on this some more. I have to get the technique down. So I don't really have this, but okay, so I've copied it. Now I'm going to hit return. Nope, can't quite get there. So I've got some practicing to do, and so you should do the same, and I'll have more information on this during the next video. But there's a bit of a talent here where you kind of grab it. Okay, you can copy paste too. So cancel that, and let's see, file. Well, anyway, I can't seem to find it right now. I need to go through this a bit more thoroughly. But if you multiply, of course, you can do it cell by cell, obviously. That's the default. If you really had to have something and you couldn't figure out the shortcut, you could take equals C, and we don't care if it's uppercase, 62 times 1.3. I'm not using the shortcut, unfortunately, but it should give us an answer. And circular references, that's actually B. So that was my fault. I used the cell. I'm not supposed to do that. So B62, did that before, times 1.3, and hit return. And there it is, 0.65. So it would give us all that kind of stuff. So I'm a little disturbed as to why it will not work. But return, nope, just isn't clicking for me. So I need to practice this, and you can certainly practice it as well. The shortcut can be very handy. Okay, it looks like that'll be enough for today. We'll be back live on the Thursday meeting on the 24th, and we'll have more review on Excel with more information as to how to work on the WebAssign problems. But actually, you do have enough information to calculate it in. It's just going to be a little bit long-winded, so I'll give you more assistance with that. Remember, you don't have to submit the WebAssign until right before the test, and the test will be delayed until October 1st, in case you didn't get the message. October 1st will be the date of the test. So, all right, so take it easy, and we'll see you live on Thursday morning for either one of the sections you happen to be in. All right, have a nice day.